What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is Saturday night, May 1st, 2021's the date, 8:33 p.m. West Coast time here, back home here in California. I can't say I'm happy to be back, but it is what it is. Taking a look at the earthquake 3D globe here, shows the latest quake on the globe. Alaska, a 2.8 earthquake striking up there, just south of the subduction zone in the Pacific Plate, North American Plate boundary. Seeing quite a bit of earthquake activity in that region. It might be something to watch here as we go into the next couple days or so. Taking a look at the USGS map, shows that earthquake activity striking there. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. In the Gulf of Alaska, right around the just west of the Pacific Plate boundary there of the North American and Pacific Plate, kind of on this plateau, if you will, along the transitional fault zone. Some of this earthquake activity rather shallow. You can see that 4.7, the strongest earthquake, at about 9.1 kilometers below the surface. Some of this other earthquake activity reaching very close to the surface here. Of course, subduction zone area, right? This could spell for potentially some earthquake activity along this subduction zone. Alaska is no stranger when it comes to some major earthquake activity out there in the years past. Historical activity has shown that very active area for mega quakes out there. So hopefully, I would say, this is not something that's starting to turn into something along those lines here. But it has been a little hot spot of activity. Let's go ahead and check out the last 7 days of activity within this region here. We'll go ahead and bring this up since we are talking about it. Aside from this earthquake activity tonight, there was a little swarm of activity over the last 7 days or so, stretching up into the plate boundary of the Pacific and North American Plate here inland. As far as deep earthquake activity, there was some. You can see that 32 kilometer quake there, 2.9 in the blue circle. This is something that we need to watch here. When you look for deep earthquake activity, that kind of tells you a story, if you will. Not a story, but possibly a prediction of, obviously, it's built up pressure up here along the lock section of the subduction zone. And that includes any areas of the subduction zone. North American Plate, Chile, Peru Trench area, Japan area, Hikarangi Trench area. I mean, any type of deep movement there is not just okay, guys, we got a good earthquake there at relatively deep levels. Okay, everything's fine and dandy. Everything's super good now. There's no buildup of pressure. Everything's, could just go along with your business. No, that's not the case. When you see deep earthquake activity in a subduction zone, such as this or anywhere in the subduction zone, it's a buildup of pressure up along the locked section where it just subducts. Right up there along the subduction zone, folks, is where this increase in activity builds up, so to speak. So it may not be a lot here in this area, but there is definitely no doubt other areas around the world where we're looking at a lot of potential buildup, no doubt. But just for today, only a little bit of earthquake activity here in the North American Pacific Plate boundary there in the Gulf of Alaska. Inland into Alaska, looking pretty quiet. Just a couple small microquakes throughout the region, up through Anchorage and possibly up through the Fairbanks area. Japan, folks, check it out. You would never know that there was a 6.8 earthquake out there. No aftershocks. Nothing. There's not even a signature, at least according to the USGS map here, that there was even an earthquake out there. What's going on? Well, we're not done. We are not done yet with the plate dynamics that are taking place here within the last few weeks. We're looking at a tremendous amount of buildup of stress out here along north of Tokyo, up here along the end of the Aleutian Islands area, Aleutian chain, right there in that smack dab of the corner, okay? Basically right here south of Tokyo, northward, folks. 6.8 did not relieve enough pressure out there for sufficient adjustment along the plates out here, along the plate dynamics. And that's a fact, 100% a fact here. The reason being is because we have not seen any sufficient aftershock activity, folks. Let's go ahead and, the USGS is not showing it. Let's go ahead and go into the CS or the EMSC website, CSEM area. We'll check this out real quick here. These guys are not showing anything either within that region. Let's go ahead and go into their list of earthquakes real quick and check and see if we got any activity within the Japan area. Whoa, hold on a second here. According to this list here, I am not seeing anything, folks, and this is their all magnitude list here. This includes 2.0, 2.5, 2.1, nothing. Where is it at, folks? I want to know where the aftershock activity is at for that major 6.8 earthquake. Okay. Did it take place or did it not? Obviously, it did. The 6.8 was recorded on the Yellowstone seismograph stations. There's no doubt. The 6.8 was there. But why? Why in the heck are we not seeing aftershock activity in this region? Why? Because we built up a tremendous amount of pressure over the past couple of weeks in this region. The resistance is quite strong, even stronger than what a 6.8 can release out there. So I firmly believe, folks, that we're looking at a potential for a much, much, much larger quake than the 6.8 in this region. It's got to take place. It has to take place. According to the dynamics, the plate boundaries, the plate movement, the built-up stress over time, the deep earthquake activity taking place in the south, the deep earthquake activity that was taking place out here, and the minimal amount of earthquake activity that's taking place out here tells me that it's there. Everything's in place for a major quake out here along this area of the Pacific Ring of Fire, folks, okay? I don't know, I hate going into it. I hate repeating myself every single time, but it's there. It is there. So I'm going to leave it at that for tonight. Looking down south, Kermadec Islands area, the Trench, New Zealand area, looking a little bit of activity, 5.2 north of the main island. And of course, once again up here into the Fiji Islands area, west of the Tonga Trench, into the subduction area. We're looking at some major, major deep earthquake activity. 569 kilometers below surface for that 4.1 and 567 kilometers for that specific 4.4. So a pair of some major deep earthquake activity. Major. Vanuatu region, that's pretty deep for this area as well. 5.4, 169 kilometers below the surface. We're looking at, and I think, folks, every time we see significant deep movement, pressure adjustment up here is increased. So not only are we seeing increase in pressure along here that the 6.8 did not relieve, we got this more deep movement here. So that tells me that the possibility of seeing even a more larger quake in this region up here to the north is even higher than, according to these, even higher than these, than prior to this deeper earthquake activity. That's what I'm trying to spit out. It's just been it's been a fun long day, let me tell you, folks. I'll get into it a little bit later when the time is right to make an announcement. But it's been a little stressful. So deeper earthquake movement, obviously built up a pressure up here to the north due to the plate dynamics and the plate systematic areas of movement It's building up here, folks. It's really building, is what I'm saying. Let's go ahead and zoom into the Alaska region. Not a whole, Alaska out in the middle of the Pacific. Holy smokes! When did that happen? Hawaii. Okay, southeast area, southeast flank. Pretty much general earthquake activity at a reasonable average depth there, about 32 kilometers below surface. No significant movement. A little bit of activity ramping up around the Kilauea volcano rim, the Kilauea crater area, and some deeper movement at that. We could see potentially a heightened increase in volcanic activity there. Something to watch pretty closely, of course. West Coast region, looking at the all magnitudes map, folks. This is not the 2.5 and above. This is all magnitudes. Looking pretty quiet. We did talk about the earthquake activity in Chico, California, 3.0 up there, kind of shaking things up a little bit in the Sacramento Valley. Nothing to be concerned about because we're looking at common activity there. I shouldn't say common, okay? I said that word and it kind of triggered a couple people out there. It triggered them saying that they don't believe it's common. Okay, I'm looking at activity where we have seen historically movement in the past. Okay, common meaning that this does not happen every single day. Okay, could be a couple years intervals, but it does happen on occasion there in the Sacramento Valley near Chico, all throughout the Sacramento Valley. Willows, we're talking about Hamilton City, Orland, Yuba City, all this area has seen earthquake activity in the past. So Ridgecrest calming down pretty quietly, although looking here to the west near Lake Isabella, Bakersfield, east of Bakersfield, we're seeing a little increase in earthquake activity near Bodefish. Nothing big, just a couple small microquakes up there in the region of the mountains. It's the southern area of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Moving down south here into the San Andreas Fault Zone, looking pretty average, folks. I don't see any type of swarming. In fact, looking a little below average for the earthquake activity along the San Jacinto Fault area. A little earthquake out here in the Pacific off the coast of Los Angeles, off the coast of Malibu. Some deeper movement, 1.9 at 22 kilometers below the surface right there. Moving in, look what's missing up here in the Intermountain West region. And I believe this has something to do with that 6.8 that struck. It's gone. Where's all the earthquake activity throughout Idaho, throughout Yellowstone, throughout the Intermountain West region? It's been displaced. Okay? But I believe it will come back pretty soon unless we see some significant movement off here along the northwestern part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Okay, pay attention to that very closely. These two spots here play a major role in one another along this plate, this cracked egg that we're living on. There has been a little bit of earthquake activity in the Pacific Northwest, but nothing major, nothing even to write home about, folks. Pretty quiet. So tremor, what's going on in the tremor? It has not calmed down. So this leads me to believe that there's still major resistance out there around the Tokyo area that is still providing sufficient pressure out here along the North American continent, the Juan de Fuca plate, producing some significant tremor, right? Down dip, downstream of the surface here. We're looking at 459 epicenters of tremor, still confined in the area of the central coast of Oregon. That's some significant movement. I was hoping that we would see a dropout of the activity along here, along the west coast, the North American coast. But we haven't. That's because we have not seen sufficient pressure along the Japan area to release this activity we're seeing for quite some time over here along the Cascadia. So subduction continues, tremor continues, and it will continue as long as we are not seeing any significant release of pressure over here to the North American or the North Pacific plate, northwestern part of the Pacific plate here in Japan. It's just it's not going to go away. We're going to see a major quake over here pretty soon, probably, before this activity along the Juan de Fuca plate disappears. Intermountain west, like I said, it's pretty quiet. The Texas area has subsided. No earthquake activity in Texas. What the heck? It's quietly calm. No, quietly, I should say, dramatically calmed down right after that 6.8. So I believe we've seen a little band-aid, if you will, little band-aid in release of pressure along the west coast of the North American plate, and the dynamics of everything that's taken place here within this general area. Temporary band-aid, you know, it's like a little patch, if not a little patch, it's a little movement, a little adjustment, I guess you could say, to relieve some pressure out here in the North American plate. But it's not going away. It's not going to last long. Watch, it is not going to last long. The Panama area is in a little bit of earthquake activity. 5.1, Santa Isabel, Panama. Some deep earthquake activity. 38 kilometers below the surface for that earthquake. It was felt pretty broadly throughout the area. Down here in the Antarctica tip, way up here around Drake Passage, Scotia Sea, 4.3, near the South Shetland Islands. That was actually, let's see when that took place here. A little bit ago, right at that tip. We have seen some earthquake activity in the past here in that region, something to watch. But overall, folks, looking at the bigger picture, folks, west coast of the North American continent here is still on guard, still on target, if you will, for the pressure dynamics out here along the plate tectonics, the boundaries, if you will. Yes, we are seeing a little bit of earthquake activity down here, but I think the more movement we see down here to the southwestern part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, the highly likelihood, if you will, of seeing a larger earthquake in this region jumps up, and ultimately it adds pressure out here along the western coast through the North American continent. It's just it's been that way. It's been locked in this area for quite some time. No significant movement along the west coast, but a heightened earthquake activity in this region. So it's something to watch pretty closely, folks. I think something, it needs to happen. Something needs to happen. I'm talking probably, as I mentioned before, 7.0 or greater in this region to get things back to positional normalization, I guess, if you will, when it comes to the plate movements, the plate adjustments. It's just been, what do we got? Whoa. What do we got here? Just right now, 3.3 off the coast of Northern California, near, well off the coast of Ferndale into the Gorda Escarpment regions. This is kind of new heightened earthquake activity, if you will, west of the Cascadia. And this is what I'm talking about, folks. We are not going to see any major quietness along the west coast or North American continent until we see a major release of pressure out here along the Japan Trench into the Aleutian Islands area. It's not going to happen. And this 3.3 just aligns with what I'm talking about. It's there. 10 kilometers below surface for this quake. Let's hope we don't see a continued swarm of activity. This is kind of south of the Blanco fracture zone, where we've seen a pretty good swarm of moderate earthquakes there over the past couple days, 2 or 3 days ago. But this activity well to the south into the Gorda mountain range. All right, if this is not an ocean, it would be a mountain range underneath the ocean there. But it's the Gorda ridges, kind of right there on the top of that ridge. And default system looks like at about 10 kilometers below surface. So, all right, folks, I'm starting to lose my voice. Goodness. Yellowstone National Park. Let's check this out real quick here. There has been some odd, I guess odd is a word, if you consider that odd. Some spiky earthquake activity showing up there on that map, but I can't be 100% sure if that is indeed activity, because if you look at a localized station within that seismograph station there, we don't see it. We don't see that same general activity taking place there. So it's hard to say if that is indeed earthquake activity, or if not, maybe something localized that's interfering. So we're keeping an eye on it. I do kind of keep an eye on weird stuff like that showing up on the seismographs there in Yellowstone, but I don't think this is anything to worry about at the moment. So some type of interference going on. Anyway, folks, have a good night. We are out of here. Stay safe out there. Latest quake, like I said, along the North American continent. Well, west of the North American continent, along the Gorda Ridges, Gorda area, 3.3 taking place. That 6.8 needs to disappear because for some reason it was beyond the 24-hour threshold. There we go. All right, folks, have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. We will keep you updated if anything else changes. In the meantime, stay safe out there on this absolutely crazy Saturday night. Peace out.